All right, welcome everybody. We've got folks trickling in. Sorry about the tech snafus. Um, we are recording this, so we'll definitely be sharing it out in case people are missing it. And Daniel, if you just want to keep an eye on that waiting room and let people in if I miss anybody, good to see you all. I'm gonna get started because we're a little bit behind. So welcome. Oh, all right, welcome to the Full Plates, Full Potential webinar on grants and funding, securing funding for your school nutrition programs. Next slide. So a few housekeeping points before we start. There's closed captioning available, and we are recording this presentation. It's going to be available on our website by October 15th, which is when our fall grants open up. Daniel is going to be monitoring the chat. He's sharing his screen. He's helping with logistics today. So please keep an eye on the chat for any links that he's going to be dropping throughout the presentation. We will save questions for the end, at which point you can come off mute and on camera if you prefer. If you have any tips and tricks to share on how you've secured funding for your school, please drop them into the chat or share at the end. Next slide, please. So here's the agenda for today's webinar. Next slide. Founded in 2015, Full Plates, Full Potential is a nonprofit dedicated to ending childhood food insecurity in Maine by maximizing the use of existing child nutrition programs. Our vision is to ensure that all kids have the food they need to thrive and reach their full potential. We share this vision with so many of you across the state, including our awesome panelists joining us today. Next slide. So we're excited to be joined by two school nutrition directors, Mary Emerson of Westbrook Schools and Stormy Hendrickson of RSU 40. Katie Hoffman of the Maine Dairy and Nutrition Council, as well as Michelle Bisbee with the Maine Department of Education Child Nutrition Program, are also joining us to talk about their grant opportunities this school year. From the Full Plates team, I will be presenting on behalf of my colleague Finn Madden, grants manager, and Daniel Scheckman, our communications manager, is running the show behind the scenes. My name is Robin Kerber, and I am the associate program director. Next slide. So first up, we're going to share a bit about our upcoming Full Plates grant opportunities. And Daniel, I'm just going to quickly say that I've got one screen here. So if you can't hear me or if anything's glitchy, please just come off mute and let me know. Okay. So one way the Full Plates offer support to child nutrition programs is through our grants. And the goal of these grant programs is to make sure that nutrition teams have what they need to be able to increase access to and participation in their meal programs. We have 3 grant programs that will be opening in a couple of weeks on October 15th. The School Meals Grant is for supporting projects and best practices that increase participation in school breakfast and/or lunch programs and offers grants of up to $5,000. Some example projects for this grant could be purchasing supplies for a new Breakfast After the Bell program, doing taste tests with students, or other creative ways to make your meal programs more inviting and more accessible to students. So new this year, we're also opening a separate school kitchen equipment grant. This application will be simpler than the school meals grant and doesn't need to be tied to a specific project or initiative. These grants are also up to $5,000, and you can apply for this if you just need a quick support to repair, upgrade, or bring in a new piece of kitchen equipment. We also have our Oakhurst After School Meals Grant. This one is specific to CACFP at risk after school. Anyone currently operating this program or in the process of starting up this program can apply. Existing sponsors can apply for up to $5,000 and new sponsors can apply for up to $8,000 to help cover some of those startup costs. Coming up in the spring, we have our Summer Meals Grant with a maximum of $10,000. This will open in April and can be used for a variety of expenses related to operating summer meal programs. More details about these grants will be posted to our website, and we also send out grant announcements to our newsletter list. Thanks for dropping that link, Daniel. And next slide, please. So, when thinking about applying for our grants, it is important to know that there are some restrictions in how these funds can be used. The good news is that there are plenty of allowable expenses. This includes equipment and supplies. So, this is the bigger purchases like stoves, refrigerators, and also smallware. You can use our grants to purchase technology, such as pin pads or electronic signage. You can cover transportation costs. That could be purchasing or leasing a vehicle, paying for fuel, doing vehicle repair, and upgrades. Also, marketing and outreach. So, we see a lot of folks use our grants to do our summer meal grants to do summer meal kickoff events, for example, or having posters or magnets designed and printed. So, those marketing and outreach help spread the word about your awesome programs, and we can support that. You can also use these funds to purchase food that is used in taste tests, menu samples, and recipe development, as well as pay for short term staffing costs specific to the grant that you are applying for. So, some examples of short term staffing could be if you're starting a new breakfast after the bell model and need a few additional hours of staff time each week to help get it up and running. You could pay to bring in staff to do recipe testing and menu development. We see schools doing that over the summertime when they want to keep staff engaged. And what a great time to develop some of those culinary skills, use the abundance of local produce available. That's another allowable staff expense. You could pay for staff to attend trainings and bring in subs while they are at the trainings. Generally, short term staffing is a one time funding thing with the expectation that your program will see an increase in meals served and therefore will be able to use that extra money, extra reimbursement money to cover the staffing needs going forward. And there are a couple of unallowable expenses as well. This is because of the child nutrition performance standards that require sponsors to be financially viable. So certain,
He is not in at the moment. Can I put
oh, oh, sorry about that. So certain costs can't be grant funded. We at Full Plates want to make sure that our grants will never constitute a finding for you or your program for when your program is reviewed. That's why we have these restrictions on how our funding can be used. Food that is served for reimbursement, and ongoing and basic staffing costs that are required to operate your program. So those are the two big unallowable expenses. And sometimes it can be kind of tricky to know what is an ongoing staffing cost versus what is short-term staffing cost. So if you have specific questions about that or really anything with our grants, please reach out to Finn. Daniel will drop Finn's email in the chat, and they're available to kind of help troubleshoot and guide you through making sure that what you're spending the time applying for is an allowable expense. Next slide. Um, which is the how to apply slide. Maybe we got a little bit off there. So as far as how to actually apply, you'll be able to view all our application materials on our website. Finn tries to have them updated at least 2 weeks before the grant opens. These resources include a Word document of the application questions so you can look through and see what is asked, a scoring criteria, and a rubric that our review team uses to evaluate the grants and make decisions. There's a budget template that is not required to use, but it's definitely there if you want to use it and can be very helpful. And we also have a list of examples of eligible kitchen equipment and supplies that you can purchase with the grant. And then once the grant opens, there will be a link to an online form where you can fill out your responses and submit your application. We use a program called Airtable for our grants, and the application is just one page, similar to a Google form. So that is also a change this year with our grants, simplifying the process for you. And we hope that you find it really accessible, and let us know if you have any questions about that. Next slide. Tips for a strong application. Here are some tips for making a strong application. Always make sure to read through the grant description and eligibility information before you start your application. Use clear and simple language. We have a variety of folks who help us in reviewing our grants, so it's best to not assume that they know the specific ins and outs of your program, specific jargon, stuff like that. Just make sure you're providing enough context so that anyone reading your application would understand what you're applying for and why. Make sure you're fully answering each question. Some questions have multiple parts, so make sure you're responding to each one. Double check your budget. And whether you're uploading a spreadsheet or doing a narrative, make sure that the budget matches what you're requesting and then includes sufficient information. It should be clear to anyone reviewing why you're requesting those items. And finally, again, reach out to Finn if you have any questions. It's always better to just ask if you're unsure if you're eligible or not, or if you have a question about your budget. We also have two wonderful child nutrition consultants who are happy to help walk through your grant ideas and help troubleshoot any challenges. Next slide. What happens next? So once you submit your application, Full Plates does a review process with our staff and with some external partners. We use the application scoring rubric that's posted on the website. We will reach out to you if we have any clarifying questions about your application. We do our independent review process, and then we meet as a team to make those final decisions. Applicants will be notified about 1 month after the application deadline. If you're awarded, you'll get an email with the next steps, and you will need to sign a grant agreement and upload a W-9 before we can issue payment. Funds will be sent within 2 weeks of completing those steps. Finally, a very brief grant report will be due either at the end of the school year or the beginning of the summer, depending on which grant you got. This report asks a few questions about how you used the grant, how the program went, and also has an optional space to give feedback and suggestions about our grant program, which is always really appreciated when you take the time to offer thoughtful criticism, feedback. We really appreciate that. And that's pretty much the Full Plates grants in a nutshell. Again, all the specifics about our individual grants can be found on our website and will be shared via email newsletters. So make sure you subscribe to that. Always feel free to reach out to Finn if you have any questions. Next slide. So now I'm going to pass it over to our awesome school nutrition directors that are joining us as panelists, starting with Mary. Both of these directors have received several of our grants and are going to share some examples of how they use these funds to help support their school nutrition programs. Next
Okay,
slide. And Mary, if you want to come off mute, maybe introduce yourself and tell us what we're looking at here.
Okay, I'm Mary Emerson. I'm the School Nutrition Director for Westbrook School Systems. I've been here since 2018. My very first experience with Full Plates Full Potential grants was in starting up my supper program. When I was hired, they had never had a supper program before, but they were very excited about trying one. And so I applied to Full Plates Full Potential for the materials I needed, the carts, and all the logistics of running a supper program. It wasn't, we called a supper program per se, we call it super snacks, because our goal is not to take away from the family supper, but to provide a snack. And we found that we had a lot of kids and the students in the building until like 5, 6 o'clock at night. So Full Plates Full Potential was the one that got us started being able to serve these students, and it was a success. We started at the high school, and then we've moved over into all the other schools over the course of time. But I really credit Full Plates Full Potential with that initial investment in us, because that really did start the whole ball rolling forward, and being able to get the hot and cold type carts that on wheels that we could go all the way around the building, was our first way of doing after school snacks. And then I also, in the process, applied for a breakfast after the bell grant, which was, from DOECN. And I did get that grant for the vending machine, and I have a picture of it right here of the vending machine. And what's really neat about the vending machine is that I can make like one row breakfast. We make the top 3 rows breakfast and the bottom 2 after school snacks. So that way the students have a choice of, it's locked out after a certain time in the morning, after 9:30, it's locked out for breakfast. But in the afternoon, 30 minutes after the last bell, it can open up and be our after-school snack program here at the high school. So that was a grant from Full Plates Full Potential to allow us to have the software and everything that we needed to supplement this vending program and establish it as well as for our CACFP program. And I've also been the beneficiary of a lot of summer grants from Full Plates Full Potential. A lot of those grants have been to support our kickoff events, which we have in our low-income housing areas. We offer a free meal, entertainment. There's been bike repair people. There's been the marching band there, all kinds of different community resources. And that's something, just kind of a tradition that we do here in Westbrook, is we always have this kickoff event in the summer, just get us going. And the police department comes, the fire department comes. And so it's a really good event for the kids to get excited about summer meals. And the grant pays for adult meals, so that we can have the parents come and learn about school lunch and what the meals are like. So that's been a really beneficial part of our summer program, and it's really helped strengthen our summer program. The last couple of years, what's happened is in Westbrook, we're considered urban, so we're not allowed to give meals to go unless we have a specific waiver. But one of the things that we've used Full Plates Full Potential grant money for is to provide a breakfast for any student that comes, or any child, I'm sorry, that comes to get lunch. They are asked if they would like to have a breakfast to take with them for the next day. So that cost of that breakfast comes from our grant. And I feel that that's a really important thing for any of the children that are in our area that really are food insecure. I feel that's a real benefit, being able to offer that. And I wish USDA allowed it as well. But since they don't, this is a really great access for them. And I also wanted to tell you a little bit about promotional materials, because one of the things we did one year was we actually did a map of Westbrook, and we had all the symbols and everything, and we printed those off and sent those home to parents too. So it was something that was a little unique. It looked a little different, and that was something to promote our program. And there was a cost to that. Normally I wouldn't spend that much money on something like that, but it was a good benefit of having that, and helped increase our participation that year, I hoped. And so my whole program has been about increasing access and making sure that every student can access our program. So another program that we've started here in Westbrook is looking at halal offerings as well for our families and students that do follow halal food culture. So we actually have banded together with South Portland and Portland and formed the Halal School Meals Network. And so that's another program that Full Plates Full Potential has helped us strengthen us with. And so we've been able to actually look at our inventories and determine what is and what isn't halal, and open that up to our students, so that especially at the high school level, so they can understand and they can see what we have. And then we're able to target some offerings that we have that are halal, as well as hopefully bring in more halal type foods in the future. As you know, with halal, there's only one butchery in the state of Maine for poultry right now. That's open now. It was closed for a while. Now it's open, but there's none for beef for us yet. So we're working on trying to gain our offerings in that area. And Full Plates Full Potential has been a great supporter for those. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Mary. Really inspiring, all that you're doing over there in Westbrook. And that vending machine is very cool.
Mhm.
Daniel, do you want to go to the next slide, and then we'll pass it over to Stormy?
Hi, my name is Stormy Hendrickson, Food Service Director for RSU 40. It's Mid-Coast area, and been doing this I've been in child nutrition for about 23 years, and the director since the end of 2008. Before I talk about my slides, I just want to quickly say thank you to Full Plates and Full Potential, and there's so many other organizations, Action for Healthy Kids, Let's Go, Maine Child Nutrition, and the Maine Dairy Council, of course, that without you guys, I don't know. You guys not only help us out tremendously with different grant opportunities, but just the support you get, and it's truly appreciated. So, the last 2 or 3 years, we've been fortunate to receive been awarded quite a few grants. And the first thing you really think about is replacing some of this old tired equipment like dishwashers and ovens and stuff like that. And we were able to do that. We replaced, I would say, probably 60% of our equipment that was failing, and we were just band-aiding from year to year. But with Full Plates and Full Potential, with the grant money that we were awarded, we used it towards a lot of small wares, things that you kind of don't think about. And some of the things we got, like on the slide, is we got smoothie makers. And I can tell you that since we started making smoothies for breakfast, using Greek yogurt and different fresh fruits and stuff like that, our breakfast has increased tremendously. I haven't got all the numbers in yet, but the kids are loving it. Stock pots too, and immersion blenders have been great that we purchased with some of the grant money. We've made homemade tomato sauce out of our gardens. So yeah, we replaced a lot of small wares, and that's been very helpful, because I think, we have to remember them too, to make different dishes, to make sure you have the right equipment. So you can go to the next slide. Here's just some of the dishes some of my staff have made. They've just done a credible job, and they're super happy with the equipment. And so like the first one, we have a Greek meatball gyro. They made their own tzatziki sauce, and that's a chickpea salad that we got off the Chef Ian Foundation Lunchbox website. And then the middle, they made a homemade chicken noodle soup. And on the end is something that the high school really likes. It's a ramen bowl with chicken broth, noodles, edamame, chicken wontons, carrots, and green onions, and it's been quite the hit. So they've been able to do all this with the grants that we received, and it's just been really, truly a blessing. So my staff is happy, and when they're happy, I'm happy. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd be happy too. Those look so good. I have been kind of nonstop today and haven't had lunch, and now my stomach is really growling. So thanks for sharing those photos, Stormy. Awesome. Let me just get back here. All right, so thank you both. I hope that many of you are feeling inspired and have already marked on your calendar October 15th when our grants open. Now we're going to hear from Michelle Bisbee of the Department of Education and learn more about the status of their equipment assistant grants.
So thank you for having me today. I was really hoping by this time that I would have better news to share. Unfortunately, we have not had any updates on the federal equipment grant for this year. But I promise you, as soon as we hear something, it will be in the Thursday update. I have it ready to go and hit send as soon as I get the information. So I'm asking everybody right now to just keep your fingers crossed that we get that information sometime soon. But just to give you a heads up for when it does come out, we do give a minimum of 30 days notice to give you time to prepare for when the grant opens. And then the grant is open for a 1-month application period. Our grant, the federal equipment grant, is scored by a panel. It is a little bit more restrictive than the previous state equipment grant that we had that was only funded for 1 year. With the federal grant, you are only allowed one single piece of equipment, and it must be a minimum of $1,000. And if you are asking for a piece of equipment over $10,000 and you are awarded, the most that we will award is 10,000. The reason for this is because over the years, we've seen a decrease in our funding that we get for this grant. And we just want to be able to provide as much to as many different schools as we possibly can. This grant, typically we've seen over the years that it is used to replace an oven, reach-in coolers, reach-in freezers, dishwashers, ranges, things like that. So basically any piece of equipment between $1,000 and $10,000. If you have been awarded this grant in the past, please do not feel discouraged about applying again, because generally it is a priority is given to schools that have not received it in the past. However, Maine's not a very large state, and this grant has been around for many years. So we are running out of the schools that have never received this grant before. So I encourage everyone to apply if you think you need something once it is opened up. It used to only be available to schools over 50% free and reduced. That is no longer a requirement. So please do not let that discourage you from applying as well. And like I said, as soon as we have information, we will definitely let you guys know. However, I have on the next slide, I have some information about purchasing equipment, just so you guys have the resources available. For anyone that's been with us for a while, we've always had on our website what we call our pre-approval list. This is a list of equipment that is at a certain dollar amount that you do not have to ask approval for us to purchase. Anything over the small purchase threshold, you have to ask the state for approval. But we know that ovens are a necessity, refrigerators are a necessity, things like that. So we have put together a list of items that already have our approval. We have also revamped that list with instructions on what to do if a piece of equipment is not on that list, and the form to fill out that you would send to us is available on there as well. And I also wanted to let everybody know that there's been a lot of talk around equipment inventory and making sure we're up to date on that. And I wanted to let you guys know that on our equipment website page, we also have information and resources around equipment inventory to help ease the transition into maintaining that inventory list appropriately. And of course, if you have any questions regarding equipment purchasing or equipment inventory, please do not hesitate to reach out to me at any time. My email is right on there, and Daniel has so nicely put it in the chat for everyone. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. All right. So yeah, again, reminder, Daniel's popping links in there. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. You want to share your own tips and tricks, you want to talk about anything, put it in the chat. We'll get to it at the end. Our next guest is Katie from the Maine Dairy and Nutrition Council. I know many of you know Katie and her awesome team, and hopefully know about the programming and support that they offer to schools. From adopting a cow to using their recipes for dairy-based smoothies and parfaits, they support many ways to incorporate Maine dairy into your programs. So let's hear from Katie about their grants.
Oh, thank you, Robin. That was so nice. And thank you for the invitation to participate today. It's always nice to see familiar faces, and I am both inspired and hungry after Mary and Stormy's sharing this afternoon. So thanks to everyone. As Robin said, I'm with the Maine Dairy and Nutrition Council. My name is Katie Hoffman. I'm the school programs manager. We are a nonprofit organization funded by Maine's 130 dairy farm families and dairy processors in the state. And we offer 3 school nutrition equipment grants on an annual basis. The purpose of our grants is to support Maine school nutrition programs by providing equipment to help increase meal participation, and increase dairy consumption by keeping milk cold, serving it in a way that appeals to students, and offering dairy-centric recipes kids enjoy, such as smoothies and yogurt parfaits. So next slide, we'll start with the first of our 3 grants. Our summer meal cooler grant is one that we offer each spring. The application is open usually in March for a 1-month period, and schools throughout the state have the opportunity to apply for up to 3 soft-sided insulated coolers in order to help serve milk in their summer meal programs. It keeps milk cold and it creates an attractive way to serve milk to students during the summer meal programs. Then throughout the school year, schools can utilize them in different ways, such as breakfast in the classroom or keeping milk cold on field trips. So you can see the picture on the screen, and I have one of the soft-sided coolers behind me, as a matter of fact. The application selection occurs the month after the application closes, so usually in April, and then the coolers are ordered and arrive in schools in time for the start of the summer meal program, usually in June. Okay, next slide. Please, thank you. Our second grant is the Dairy Refresh School Nutrition Equipment Grant. This is open typically in April each year for a 1-month period. The application closes the end of April. Selection is made during the month of May, and then awarded schools receive equipment over the course of the summer, so it's in place for the start of the following school year. This grant typically involves 3 pieces of equipment that we select each year. The last several years, we have awarded schools bulk milk dispensers to serve milk out of a 5-gallon bag rather than individual cartons. We have our milk cooler barrels, which are a way of serving milk on the serving line in a refrigerated unit that doesn't require electricity. And the third piece of equipment that we have offered the last several years is our Fuel Up cart, which is a way of offering yogurt parfaits or taco bars or baked potato bars to students. Each of our pieces of equipment are cow spotted and fun and colorful, so it makes it a little more fun for the students to come into the cafeteria and see something that is attractive and keeps their milk and dairy products cold. Okay, next slide, please. And then the last grant that we offer is through our Fuel Up program. Fuel Up is a national program that is part of National Dairy Council, and we, as the Maine Dairy and Nutrition Council, are part of the National Dairy Council. So Fuel Up offers equipment grants in the spring, similar to our local grants, with the application period open in April, awards being made in May and June, and then equipment arriving over the course of the summer. The last several years, this equipment, the 2 equipment packages have included smoothie making equipment and marketing materials, and meals on the go stations, breakfast carts, so that breakfast can be served in locations outside of the cafeteria, maybe in the entrance to the schoolway or in a remote wing, so that students have an increased opportunity to access breakfast. And those carts have included 2 breakfast carts and a milk cooler barrel, as well as insulated coolers. So each equipment package has multiple pieces in order to support the program. In order to apply for the Fuel Up grant, it's necessary to create a free account at fuelup.org. But it's super easy to do, and then you have access to the grant opportunities and other opportunities throughout the course of the year. So next slide, please. So those are our 3 grant opportunities. All of our grant recipients, I should note, receive support from our office throughout the year, access to promotional and educational resources for the cafeteria, and a visit from our staff and a local dairy farmer during the school year so that we can see the equipment in use, introduce students to a local farmer so they get to meet the people who are making the food that they consume. And we want to celebrate the success of your school nutrition program with these visits. So if anyone has any questions, you can see my email address on the screen and you can reach out to me anytime. Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's awesome. I love the added layer of the support, including the dairy farm visit. That's very cool. Dairy farmer visit. So thank you for sharing that. So next up, we wanted to introduce some other funding opportunities. Next slide, Daniel. So as you can see from the list here, that is by no means exhaustive, there are some other state, national, local funding opportunities to look into. It hasn't really been mentioned already, but sometimes just Googling the needs for your school nutrition programs can result in finding some pretty creative ways to fund them. So here's a list of some state, including the Sewell Foundation, the Kendall Food Prize, Retrius, a great local nonprofit that gets fruit orchards into your schools, national opportunities, including it was recently announced that the USDA Patrick Leahy Farm to School grant is back up and running. So that is really exciting. That was paused with no certainty about its future, and now it's back. Certainly a great one to look into. It's funded some amazing projects here in our state. Daniel's going to pop some links. I think I kind of might have overwhelmed him with different URLs to share in the chat, but also wanted to share a link for a funding opportunity specific to Portland schools. I'm not sure if there's anybody joining us today from Portland, but look for that. It's a Google Doc link that Daniel's going to be sharing. And again, just sometimes Googling, maybe you are looking to expand your part of your kitchen and have it focus on supporting students with celiac, and you want like a specific gluten-free part of your kitchen. Maybe there's a celiac awareness organization that has random funding that has never thought about funding school nutrition programs, and you might be there first. You just never really know what is out there until you start searching for it. Next slide. So let's see. What about other local opportunities? So when we think about grants and funding for our schools, sometimes we silo our thinking and assume that if there isn't a specific grant to meet our specific needs, then there isn't a solution. There are many things that school nutrition directors are good at, and thinking creatively and outside the box is certainly one of them. So what does that look like in terms of funding your programs at the local level? Next slide. Who's in your community? What would it feel like, and how could it potentially impact your programs if you were transparent and honest about your needs? Asking for help when we need it can feel uncomfortable, but if you've ever given someone a gift or a helping hand, you know how amazing that can feel. Creating doors of opportunity for people in your community to walk through to support you and your programs can be productive, impactful, and hugely uplifting. So, step 1, make a wish list. In your ideal school nutrition world, what would you need to make that happen? If no one knows what you need, then no one can help. Step 2, create the doors so opportunity can walk in. Share your wish list on social media, in newsletters, on your website, etc. Market your program for the amazing value it is in your community and spread the word. Step 3, identify who is in your community. That could be credit unions, community partners and service providers. Maybe there's a local kitchen supply store that might be interested in donating a bunch of spatulas or donating some immersion blenders. Build a relationship with them. Hardware stores, greenhouses, nurseries, farms, producers, individuals, families. I mean, just thinking about who exists in your greater community and how do you help spread the word that, hey, you are a vital part of this community, feeding children. Maybe they want to be part of that, but they maybe don't know what you're doing. So you have to create those doors of opportunity for them to walk through. So an example of this idea that I always like to share and brag about my friends over at RSU 49, So they host community suppers in the fall, and they invite anyone and everyone from their area to share a locally sourced, truly delicious and amazing meal. They made relationships with businesses and organizations, farmers and producers to make the meal a success. They printed wish lists of the district's needs and they put them on all the tables. They included everything on these wish lists from someone with a tractor to help in their school gardens, gleaned local produce for taste testing, kitchen smallware to implement more scratch cooking. So I think I shared with Daniel, if he can put it in the chat, this is the RSU 49. It's their farm to school webpage, and they have a wish list right there. So again, going back to putting your needs out there, you never know who might have, an afternoon and they own a tractor, and sure, they can drive down to your school and help you move a bunch of compost or, any number of things, just putting it out there into the community. Next slide, Daniel. So everyone joining us today knows the importance of child nutrition programs for our communities, but communicating this can be challenging. So since I'd also say that doing the work that we love means that we're often pretty humble about it. So here's a small exercise to do to help structure conversations you have with potential funders, whether it's a local hardware store owner or as part of a big grant application. So how do we communicate the impact of our work to potential funders? It's a little bit of an ad lib. So we help who to how their life has changed. Let me tell you about a story. So let's go to the next slide and I'll kind of give you an example of how somebody at Full Plates might ad lib this prompt. So somebody on my team might say, we help school nutrition directors to connect with and support each other. Let me tell you about the awesome director meetups happening around the state this year and how you can support them. So this is a great way to start a conversation with somebody. If you're like a little uncertain, how do I even go out into my community and find people that might be able to fund my program, especially if they're not familiar with it. And I encourage you all to be boastful because you're doing so much and it's so important. And we all know that it's a lot easier to do this work with as many helping hands as possible. Next slide. So with that, I want to say thank you all for joining us today. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat or if people want to come off of mute and we can answer them. If you have any specific questions about the Full Plates grants, you can certainly ask right now, though I will say that Finn is our grants expert and they're not with us today, so I can so definitely email them. And yeah, let's open it up. Daniel, is there anything in the chat besides all the amazing links that you're putting in there?
Nothing in the chat at the moment. Thanks, Robin.
Okay, cool.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it,
It's
Stormy.
actually for Kate, Main Dairy. Do you have any resources for us in the schools that help explain, how do I say it? Like, we have some people that they don't want chocolate milk in the schools. And we don't serve it for breakfast, but we do serve it for lunch. And I just feel that I would rather see a child drink a chocolate milk than not drink milk. Do you have any resources that would help us explain that and better show the parents why we do this?
That's a great question. And absolutely, we have a number of resources that I can share with you, and I'm happy to do that, that are based on research and yeah, we've got a lot of resources that I've shared with other school districts over the years, and I'm happy to do the same with you, Stormy. So
That'd be great.
I'll email those to you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. And on this last slide here, we have some email addresses. So if you want to get in touch with Michelle, Katie, Finn, myself, please do so. We are available to support you in so many ways. And the recording of this webinar is going to be on our website before October 15th, which is when the Full Plates grants open up. And we're happy to hold your hand as much as you need for that grant process. And if there are no other questions, I think we can conclude. Thank you again for joining us.